Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. My condition caused me to go into full septic shock, and all of my organs began to fail. The physicians, the lights, the x-rays being taken, the pain, the feeling of losing consciousness were all there 1 minute, and then everything became calm and quiet. It was serene and tranquil, and I felt fantastic. It had a pleasant odor. The environment was light and open, and I became aware of a presence to my right, but further back, I couldn't see or stare at it as much as I was simply aware of it. I was asked whether I wanted to stay with my earthly family or go without saying anything, ahead towards the pinkish, greenish, beautiful unknown. Kara was supposed to be born on April 10, 2015, but she arrived a week later, on Friday, April 17, 2015, at 1645 at Johannesburg Water Birth Facility. Kara, like Stella, was born naturally vaginally, and the birth itself was quick and without difficulties. However, the placenta did not arrive after Kara was born. The midwife attempted for almost 1.5 hours to extract the placenta, but it refused to come out. I lost 1.5 liters of blood during the procedure, and at about 2200 that night, Dr. D, my clinic's backup gynecologist, brought me into surgery to remove my placenta. I was out of the operating room in 30 minutes, and the surgery appeared to be a success. I was released from the clinic 2 days later, April 19, 2015, but I was still exhausted and weak. We were told that this was usual because of the blood loss and resulting low iron levels. I had antibiotics to finish, which I did, and iron and vitamin C supplements to take. We assumed that because Dr. D did not contact us again, a follow-up was unnecessary. We would have cheerfully agreed to a sonar checkup a few days following the placenta extraction if she had requested it. She would have simply stated that it would be a difficult placenta evacuation and that she needed to guarantee that the entire placenta was removed. Timeline: Tuesday, May 12, 2015. I began to feel bad, but we suspected it was the same cold or flu that Stella had. Thursday, May 13, 2015. I called Carl around 1600 and requested him to take me to the hospital. I had a temperature, 38 to 39 degrees Celsius, was chilly, and had shaken uncontrollably all day. We proceeded to the nearest hospital's emergency room. After a urine test, we were told that it was either a bladder or uterus infection, but it was difficult to know. Because there were no gynecologists at the facility, the doctor on call advised us to go to the hospital where Dr. D practices for a sonar to see if there were any retained products. We got at the hospital at 1900 that evening, and I was immediately admitted. My blood was drawn, and I was given an IV drip. It was obvious that an urgent sonar of my abdomen was required, but we were informed by the personnel that radiology had closed for the day and that it would not be possible. I needed to express breast milk by then because I had left home in a hurry, but the hospital could not provide me with any equipment, even though the maternity ward was next door, and surely the equipment gets sterilized and should be available for use. Carl had to leave me to go get my breast pump. Dr. D arrived at about 2030 and went over my blood results with me. She said that the current infection level was 100, but that it wasn't anything to be concerned about and that it wasn't sepsis. I explicitly asked this question. I had to stay the night at the hospital because the sonar department had already closed for the day, and the scan could not be done until after 8 the next morning. We later learned that a typical infection count must be less than 5, thus a count of 100 was obviously cause for concern. On Thursday, 14th of March, 2015, I was restless throughout the night, although I did get some sleep. There were only a few nurses that checked in, and there was no information about the following stages. I went to take a shower with the drip still attached, and someone eventually came to get me for the sonar. The radiologist was clearly shocked and surprised when she saw what was on her screen. She said she couldn't believe it, but she assumed the placenta had been retained. I became increasingly concerned and requested Dr. D as soon as I returned to the ward. Nobody knew if Dr. D was accessible or if she would be there that day. Dr. D's phone was likewise unanswered. I then called Dr. Z, my initial gynecologist in Pretoria, and informed her of the issue. Dr. Z also sought to contact Dr. D, but was unsuccessful. Dr. Z advised me to see her as soon as possible at the Pretoria hospital. I never heard anything else from Dr. D. Carl and I arrived at Dr. Z's office at 9:30 a.m. She took care of me right away, performed a sonar, and was astounded to see that at least 10 centimeters of placenta remained in the uterus. The lab later confirmed that there was still 15 centimeters of placenta in the uterus. Dr. Z had reserved a hospital bed for me and cleared her afternoon schedule so that she could perform a second placenta removal on me at 1400 that afternoon. I recall being carried into surgery, and the anesthesiologist apologized to me as he searched for a vein. I don't have many exposed veins, and the previous night's drip was placed in the crook of my arm. However, it stiffened my arm and gave me a tense shoulder for quite some time thereafter. He eventually discovered another location to place the needle. The surgery was a success. However, it was highly complicated due to the amount of damage caused by this occurring nearly 4 weeks after birth. During the procedure, I lost another 2 liters of blood, and my infection count had already doubled to 180 in 24 hours. The medical team worked hard to help me recuperate from the procedure. The infection was treated with strong medicines. Because of the strong antibiotics, I was unable to breastfeed and had to express and discard my breast milk during my hospital stay. At around 1900 that evening, I fell into full toxic shock and was transferred to the ICU after calling the nurse and informing her that I was losing consciousness. The nurse reacted swiftly. My life had to be fought for by Dr. Z and her colleagues. It was like something out of a movie, with people chanting your name while rushing beside you on the gurney, almost being nasty to keep you awake. Flashing lights, doors banging open and closed. I eventually entered the theater and approached Dr. Z, begging her to please call Carl and inform him of what was going on. "I can't call him right now. I'm saving your life," she said. I could sense the panic in her voice. We'd known one another for years, and she's not the type to panic lightly. I knew I shouldn't dispute with her. I could feel myself flailing and entering and exiting consciousness. Everything felt silent, such a relief. I couldn't hear or see anything that had anything to do with my actual surroundings. Nothing ached now. The anguish and sickness were vanished. I felt aware of a presence on my right shoulder, slightly behind me and barely out of sight. A delicate pink glow encircled by an even softer green light was in front of me. I was curious to see what it was, but the presence asked me what I wanted to do. Did I want to leave Earth or stay? There were no words uttered. It was more like an understanding, comprehending intelligence on a higher level. I didn't want to be impolite by not responding, but I had a strong feeling that if I didn't make a decision quickly, it would be too late. I considered my 2 girls, then 3 and 4 weeks old, and my spouse, and decided to stay with them. I started hearing everything again as soon as I made that decision. Felt how sick my body was. Dr. Z was standing to my right, demanding that I remain totally motionless because she needed to put a central venous catheter, or CVP line, just below my clavicle. There's a main artery that flows straight into the heart, and this was our last resort. No anesthesia. A specialist held my left arm, and a nurse held my right arm. If I moved, Dr. Z might punch a hole in my lung, causing us to have another problem. So I laid as motionless as I could, feeling the big pipe snake its way through my chest and directly into my heart. Dr. Z then disconnected all of the lines on the line, and a torrent of intravenous medicine rushed through my body. That felt really fantastic. I was eventually stabilized, but remained in the ICU. On Friday, March 15, 2015, I appeared to be healing. The days spent in the ICU are hazy. My smartphone was somehow with me, and I sent the strangest messages to my poor mother and husband, comparing the entire ICU situation to high school that went on about being in a wildlife nature reserve. On Saturday, September 16, 2015, we got dreadful news. The infection count has climbed to 270. The uterus had not contracted and was still holding blood. Doses of oxytocin and other medications were given to try to save the uterus. But by 1600, it was determined that I would need a hysterectomy, which was scheduled for the following morning, Sunday, May 17, 2015, at 0730. There was no other option, given that the most recent infection count was 400. On Saturday, September 17, 2015, the hysterectomy went well, but I had to stay in the intensive care unit for observation. On Monday, August 18, 2015, the infection count began to fall and I began to look better. The 19th of May, 2015, I was sent to the intensive care unit. On Thursday, November 21, 2015, I was sent to general care. On Friday, February 22, 2015, I was allowed to leave the hospital. It was nice to be home, but I was still really tired. My mother had to assist me with everything because I could barely walk and was out of breath. For weeks thereafter, I had nightmares and made weird noises in my sleep. I often reflect on my NDE and wish I could better understand it. Coming back from such an encounter has frequently left me with conflicting emotions. I'm grateful to be here, watching my family develop, but I'm also guilty of not making the most of every day, of not being a better person. Whichever way you look at it, the other side is lovely, tranquil, and serene. I understand why people make the decision to die. It's lovely. Nothing aches now. You're entirely at ease and secure.